New York Times v. United States was a historic case in which the executive branch was caught lying about the truth of the Vietnam War. In the case, the New York Times received a huge source of classified memos, later known as the Pentagon Papers, detailing how President Johnson and other members of the government were secretly allocating funds to the war effort, as well as keeping Congress in the dark. The Pentagon Papers revealed how President Johnson used combat forces without consulting Congress. The problem with that is Congress is responsible for declaring war, and any longer than 60 days has to be okayed by Congress. Congresspeople who signed laws to bring troops home were shocked that they were lied to by the president and the highest government officials. Then the Attorney General and spokesman for the Pentagon made statements about the release of the documents, citing the espionage law and censorship. After that, the New York Times said it would respectfully decline the request of the Attorney General. On June 15, 1971, the United States government filed a motion with the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, requesting a temporary restraining order and an injunction against the New York Times. The temporary restraining order was designed to immediately stop the publication of the articles while the court took the time it needed to consider the issuing an injunction, and a court order to prevent the newspaper from publishing the articles permanently. That same day, the court issued a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction, pending further review of the case. The New York Times cited the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and the freedom of the press, as well as the public's right to know, was in best interest.
The New York Times won the case in 1971, allowing themselves to publish the classified Pentagon Papers without government censorship or punishment. The ruling was 6-3, and they decided that the First Amendment protected the New York Times regarding the total rights and freedom of the press. According to the Fighting Censorship, New York Times v. United States, Justice Williams Douglas, Hugo Black, and Thurgood Marshall held the absolutist view. They believe that the press may not be suppressed under any circumstances, no matter what the threat to the national security might be. Among the dissenters was the Chief Justice who, along with Associate Justice Harry A. Blackmun and John M. Harlan, defended their decision based upon their beliefs that the president had the unrestrained authority to prevent confidential materials affecting foreign policy from being published in the press.
The most important implications of this case are the absolute right to the freedom of the press. The case also helped lead to the end of the Vietnam War, one of, if not the most unfavorable wars in the United States history. According to C-SPAN, the court ruled that the intent of the publication was not to put the U.S. into danger, but to educate the American people about the Vietnam War. By preventing the New York Times from publishing the material, the reporter's First Amendment rights were being violated. Many historians now credit the publishing of the Pentagon Papers with helping to end the Vietnam War. Because of this ruling, the press has the right to educate the American people about matters, as long as the matters don't put the U.S. into danger. The result led President Johnson to only serve one term and a closer look into all future wars. It also led to more protests on top of the protests that had already been taking place.